talking about driving. You scared the fuck out of me because like you cut off this like 18-wheeler and it had like it was one of those 18-wheelers full of cars, and you were just so engulfed in trying to keep up with Cooter or whoever was in that front car that you're just. You had all you wanted to do was catch up to them. You didn't care how it happened. You like ripped off the road, like almost cut this guy off. I seen his whole shaking. Like I'm like, God damn, this dude's gonna kill us, man. I might not like death might be prevalent more than one way tonight.
Oh, I'm going to see death tonight.
One way or the other.
We going. Grim Reaper on a sickle. Let's go, boy.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Metal Maniacs Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ingersoll, and I'm here with a man who has not been saved by daylight savings time.
It's your boy, Mod. What's good, Jay?
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, the clock was reading different in the car this morning. I was like, oh, we're time traveling.
Yeah.
I thought I was running late. I'm super early.
Yeah. I woke up, and I was like, man, I slept in late today. And then I got up, and Shona was like, oh, yeah, it was daylight savings time. I was like, oh, yeah. So I got up at the same time, basically.
I heard we were getting rid of that.
I wish we would. What a pain in the ass.
I don't know what that would mean, what life would be like, but yeah, it'd be a lot easier not not losing time.
If I'm not mistaken, originally I thought it was like for the farmers, right?
Yeah.
But the like agriculture isn't the way it used to be anymore, you know.
Right.
You have the 9 to 5 in the cities and all, you know, the food deserts and everything, so it's not as prevalent as it used to be. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where everybody would have to change, but I don't care. I can do it.
Yeah.
It's just hard when you got to lose that hour because you're thinking about going to work an hour earlier on Sunday for Monday.
Ruins the whole weekend.
You know, Sunday blues. Yeah, the nice thing is I took Friday off, so I've actually had a 3-day weekend this weekend. I spent 9 hours working on the Heart on Your Sleeve Fest edit.
Ugh.
And then I spent another 2 yesterday, and it's almost done. So
very nice.
And then that wasn't even including like the 4 I was spending on audio before that. So very extensive, but I just wanted to get that off my plate.
Yeah.
Because the record, I got to send it out to Jamie this week, the ISI songs or whatever. So I got that off my plate, and then I want to start really diving into our music.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the next big project.
I'll just keep changing the songs too as we go.
I just needed to get these out of the way. Yeah, a taste of my own medicine, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, today we got this, Jay and Mod, I guess you could say, solo episode. It's been a while since we kind of did one of these, besides obviously the reaction episodes that we do. But
everybody just stopped watching right now. They're just these two guys.
No guests. No,
we're out.
Don't worry, we have plenty of guests.
Yeah, they're coming.
The calendar is filled up. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about our top 5 concert experiences.
Sweet.
I will say just off rip, like what I can recall.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having the same problem thinking about.
Just like, you've been to so many shows.
Yeah.
So many concerts.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of all blend. And then if you're talking concerts 20 years ago, which some of these we're talking about, it's just like trying to pull that out of the vault. It's just tough, man. It's like...
Well, if they were good concerts, you should remember them, right?
Oh, yeah, but it's like you want to remember more about them.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's certain instances that happen at some of these that we'll talk about that are pretty specific to help jog the memory.
Yeah.
But at the same token, it's like... So I have some ticket stubs over there that I was going through.
Yeah.
And I got some old ones, man. Pantera, Walker Arena, like all those ones. So and then I even like Googled some stuff to try to pull up information about some of these shows. And like one of these concerts we're going to talk about even had like the set list from that show and like information about that tour or whatever. But there's not a whole lot on, because the internet didn't even exist when we started going to shows, you know? So
right. Yeah, barely at all. Like not like now. We weren't logging the data for every show we went to back in the day. I mean, those records are archived somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, somehow, some way on paper. The venues probably have a history of, you know, bands, and some people go ahead and dig all that up for us. And I was surprised to find as much information as I did on some of these old concerts from the 90s.
Yeah.
We were there. We invented all this cool fashion you're seeing. Resurgence of, you know, until it started to go haywire and the Jinko jeans and stuff like
the real new metal, heavy shit. Yeah.
Started to go south like late 90s.
Yeah. And that's the thing about concerts, man. And I got to thinking about some of these where then I'm like, should that go on my list? Because we got a top 5 concert experiences. I'm sure we'll talk about maybe some honorable mentions.
I have a huge list.
And for me, I've got to see some of my favorite bands. I've got to see a lot of my bucket list bands, and some of those didn't even make it on here because they weren't as impactful on me, right?
Right.
So I will say one other thing before we kind of dive into this list is the unfortunate thing, like the ticket stub things was cool because you can kind of look at those ticket stubs, right? And that does help jog that memory a little bit. You're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I remember buying this at Believe in Music in the back. You go to that little counter in the back where they sold the tickets.
Yep. Used to wait outside at Plums out in the parking lot, like all night camping out. Like you'd be out there at 4 a.m.
Yep.
And then the line would start forming to buy tickets to see Tool or something. And you're like, this is insanity. Of course, we don't have that problem now. Everybody just waits in the queue.
And that's what I was going to allude to that's what I was alluding to was it was cool to have that ticket stub, but now it's kind of tough because everything's digital. So like concerts over the last, I don't know, whatever handful, 5 to 7 to 8, maybe 10 years now, I don't even have a stub or anything for because I didn't really print anything out because you just stand it on your phone. So at that time, like I might just see it and like save the flyer because there's some really cool shows I've seen in Chicago, like Morbid Angel and stuff like that I don't have I would have to kind of look it up.
Yeah.
There's more of a footprint for that, at least online, if I look it up, because it was presented by Lamb Goat or, one of those websites, Blabbermouth, like, blah, blah, blah. Morbid Angel announces a tour with these bands. So it's a little easier to look up. It's just like trying to remember all those shows because I don't have an actual ticket stub with a memory attached to it, right?
So it's been like just on the phone, right? You just scan the phone screen.
Yep.
I still print these things off for that very reason. Now, it's not as cool as having the ticket stub.
Right.
Because now you got an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a big square, scan.
White sheet of paper.
Yeah, but at least it helps jog the memory. I'll fold them up and throw them somewhere in my office. I'm just like, here's a pile of concert papers. But I wasn't always doing that. So, yeah, some of this stuff, other than whatever memories I have between the ears, I have no record of attending. So I don't know exactly all of the concerts that I've been to, but like I said earlier, a moment ago, like if it was a good concert, you'll remember it.
Yeah.
You'll remember something about, I remember when I saw that person or that band, and it was a good time. But, and you don't always get the best photographs from those concerts either. Sometimes you're sitting up in the the nosebleeds and like taking a picture is like, oh, there's a couple dots on the stage, you know, and it's not really like, it doesn't really help. It's not as impactful as like, standing up front like we used to.
Yeah.
You get in their assholes and elbows.
And no photos.
Yeah, right.
Just
no.
Whatever you could see in your mind, or luckily, like the one concert I'm sure we're going to talk about somewhere, I know you shared a link and there's like a video of it someone had taken or something, like old VHS, you know, how we used to take or whatever with our camera and shit. So, but... All right, man, you're always the guest of honor, so I'm going to let you go first. Do you have these in any specific order? I kind of don't have mine in any specific order. I'll probably have a top 1, though, I imagine. But
yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll just walk it from 5 down for the sake of drama and keeping everybody in suspense. Like, oh, my God, what's your favorite concert of all time? And I will start off with, and this is a great one to start off with, and there's a reason it is placed where it is. First of all, it's one of the first ones I want to talk to. You and I had the very distinct and rare honor and privilege of seeing Death live.
Okay.
So we drove to Detroit. This is like hot off of me getting a driver's license.
Oh, God.
I'm barely a driver at this point.
I can attest to that.
And also, so this is Death on their Sound of Perseverance North American tour with Hammerfall, November 21st, 1998. The show was scheduled to be at Harpo's, and they moved it over to IROC Nightclub. Chuck took umbrage with this, but Harpo's got Seven Dust that night. And he would go on stage and kind of make some comments that were seemingly like, derogatory toward that movement. Like, we're kicking Death out or bumping them over to IROC. But that was a sign of the times. Like, we got Seven Dust. They're going to fill up Harpo's, and you're going to only, like, fill up IROC.
Yeah, Seven Dust is on the radio at this point.
Yeah, so, I love Seven Dust.
Yeah, me too.
So I didn't know that was the case that night. He was just like, they kicked us out for some radio rock bullshit. And so he wasn't happy with that. But it is what it is. We still got to have an awesome experience watching them at IROC nightclub. I remember they were milling about. Shannon, he was just talking with people. There were a couple of openers. They weren't recorded in the annals of history. Like, I have no idea who the other openers were. There's maybe some locals. All I got was Hammerfall.
I don't even remember the other bands, to be honest.
And they were like OG death metal, and they sounded like what death used to sound like.
Okay.
Like Leprosy and just nothing too particularly special. And I was actually kind of surprised that they were on the bill.
Were they local openers, you say?
Yeah, I feel like it because
they're not on any flyer or any information about the actual show, so they must have not been on the tour, actually.
So, for me, the unique experience of this was just being able to be so close to Chuck Schuldiner. Like, we were right up there on the rail, dead center. Like, this isn't something that happens very often for most people in general. You don't ever get front row, dead center under the main singer's microphone, but we did. I remember getting in there. First of all, we smoked copious amounts of marijuana.
Yeah, that Mexican brick, bro, hard.
It's just like, we're 17.
Yeah.
And we don't know any better.
Nope.
And we're definitely not drinkers, especially when you're doing, like, across the state driving.
And we're minors anyway,
They're
They're
in
not
back.
going to let us drink. So.
Yeah, they're not going to let us drink, and you got to drive back home anyway. But so this is also a time before, like, MapQuest even.
Yeah.
And so we had to farm somebody who knew how to get there. Like, hey, come on, and we'll follow you. And I remember at some point I lost that vehicle. I ended up passing them. Like, wait, I'm supposed to be following you, but that was like, you're driving across the state. It starts to get busy around like Ann Arbor, Lansing area, and then you still got like 100 miles to go. It feels like, of just busy driving. So the drive was scary, high as a kite. We listened to death the whole way there. I get in there. It's cold. It's November. It's late November. It's cold outside. First thing I do is I buy a hoodie. I'm already wearing like a long sleeve with a T-shirt over it. I put the hoodie on, and you probably know where this is going. I'm wearing the hoodie. We're up front. We're just smashed in, and then I just start feeling sick. And most people have cool experiences like, hey, I got to hang out with Chuck in the parking lot and meet him, and he signed this, and he talked to us. I threw up on his stage. Yeah, I tossed my cookies.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Chuck didn't like have to see it. It wasn't like all over the stage. It was like behind a monitor.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if it made it to the stage. Or like
it wasn't like a whole lot. Though,
no,
it was just like your stomach was.
Yeah, it was just like I had to purge a little something. But the heat got to me. That's my experience. Chuck comes over and he's shredding, and like I'm looking down at this point at the ground. I'm like, I've had it, but I'm not giving up my spot. And I remember you tapping me on the shoulder, like, dude, look up. And I'm like, huh, I'm okay. And you're like, no, dude, look up. And I look up, and then Chuck's just like hanging over, like, are you all right? Are you all right? And I'm like, never better.
Yeah.
Like, Chuck Schuldiner has acknowledged me from the stage while playing a song. I'm like, I'm never going to forget this, for the rest of my life.
Right.
So that is my unique experience, and I think that's almost better than any other experience. Like, a lot of people maybe got to meet Chuck, have a beer, smoke a joint, and talk with him. I had the man engage with me from the stage, and I'm not a heckler.
Yeah,
right. I'm not trying to get his goat or anything. He's like making sure I'm okay. And it's also a testament to Chuck and how much he cared about his fans. I think it was a big part of just his being. He wanted to make sure, hey, is this little guy here okay? Little Nicky, are you okay? Hey, man, like, never better.
Yeah.
And I immediately, like, the adrenaline of that just shot my energy levels up. And I do remember, like, being able to hold my head up.
Yeah.
And just watch the rest of the show.
So you recovered pretty quick.
Yeah.
You weren't like down and out.
Yeah, I had to get something out. I think I wasn't feeling very well from, all of the things leading up to getting a lot of stress for a new driver.
Yeah, it was kind of that too.
Yeah, a little bit of that, like, oh, we made it, but still probably a lot of anxiety going. But, man, they played a great set. You can basically get that set if you were to buy, like, Death Live in L.A.
Yep.
They've got
that DVD.
That DVD exists.
Yep. That's pretty much the tour.
Yeah, I don't think, knowing Chuck, I don't think they did a lot of variation in the set. Plus, with that band coming together like it did at the time with the new members, with Richard and Shannon and, oh God, what was it? Was it Scott, the bass player.
Yeah, I believe it was Scott.
Clendenin.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of work to do to learn all of the material, not just for the Sound of Perseverance album, but like the back
Pull
catalog.
the Plug, and all the Zombie Ritual, I believe they played too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they
They
played
did
all
a couple classics.
They did all the hits.
Yep.
They did The Philosopher.
Yep.
Do you recall they do Trapped in a Corner?
Yeah, so
I think that was
I was
going
to wait until I talked about this because this isn't my 5th concert, but I'll speak on it now. So what I remember specifically from that, because Trapped in the Corner is probably my favorite Death song.
Yeah.
I just love that little like breakdown in the middle type thing. It's just like a cool ass groove, and I just really love that song. But it isn't one of the songs that people are really going to be like knowing from, like, especially with the new album coming out.
Yeah.
It's kind of a deep cut on Individual. It's just kind of like song 4 or 5, whatever, something like that. Well, he's like, what should we play next? And I yelled, Trapped in a Corner. And he kind of looked at me like, what the fuck's the matter with this dude? And they played Trapped in a Corner next. Like, I swear to God, like, I remember this vividly.
Yeah.
He's probably like, is this a fucking time traveler or something? Like, why would this guy ask for this song and we're about to play it right now? Like,
of all songs.
I didn't have the internet, so I could sleuth the set list and be like, yell it out like I knew what they were going to play. I literally remember that. And he kind of gave me a look like, I can't believe he fucking asked for that. Well, here you go. And I'm like, badass. They actually played it. So I remember that vividly. And I was like, that's a cool experience for me, you know?
I remember looking over at you like you knew how to play the song and your hands just up in the air like showing them like, dude, I'm with you. I got you. If you mess up, I got you. Like I got the whole riff.
He didn't mess up.
No, he don't mess up.
God damn, he was good.
Yeah. Chuck was a real one. He'd come out there and he'd play. He's under the lights, so it's probably a lot of heat, but no T-shirt generally, or at least in a lot of the photos you'll see Chuck not wearing a shirt, and the man would be dripping in sweat. Like just running off the forearm, dripping off the elbow like a fountain. And I'm like, where does he get it? Because he's not that big a guy.
Yeah, I think it's just living in Florida your whole life. You probably got those glands just to fucking excrete all of that water to cool you down because you're just in the Florida swamp all the time.
No kidding.
It's called evolution right there. So when he's in Michigan in November, he's still sweating like a goddamn.
Yeah. And I thought that's how you play. You want to kind of like match the energy of the drummer behind you. Like you got to be so into your shredding that you're physically exerting yourself to perform. You shouldn't just be standing there and playing. You want to be able to provide that amount of energy to the audience. But I remember a guy yelling, like Chuck was calling out, like, again, what do you guys want to hear next? And some guy in the audience is like, lack of compression. Well, okay, first of all, it's
not that.
That's not a fucking song that Death plays. Lack of comprehension was the song.
What he had.
Further that, they already fucking played that song.
Oh, man.
I remember, I was like, dude, they already fucking played that, and that's not the song title anyway.
Maybe he was just talking about his guitar settings. Lack of compression.
More compression. There's a lack of compression. Oh, my God.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good show.
Look at him like, what fucking show are you at? You paid money to see this, and you don't even know what the fuck songs we're on?
So,
that's crazy.
Last bit I'll say about this concert is at some point, you know, the three musicians up front step off the stage, and they leave Richard Christie to do like a drum solo on the stage. And I remember, like, you could see like a hallway that would go back to like a green room, right? Well, Chuck like kind of peeked out of the green room, and he's sipping a wine cooler because only Chuck can pull that off. Like I'm just gonna drink a Seagram's, you know. And he's like looking at the audience, and I see him, and I give him like the horns, and he raises the bottle to me, like, cheers, dude, glad you're doing okay. So that was the last bit that I had to remember. Like I didn't get to talk to him or shake his hand or anything, and we didn't hang out afterwards. It was like we got 3 hours ahead of us to drive home, but I thought that was cool. Like he, again, just checking on the audience, and he saw me and he singled me out. And the room ain't that big. Maybe it was bigger in my mind.
Yeah,
like
it always is, especially when you're 17.
I'm sure there was
big at that point.
I'm sure there was a couple hundred people in there, but as big a name as Death in the history of music, you'd think there should have been like a couple thousand people in there, right? No, even in their heyday. I'm sure they did big shows. I'm sure they did festivals and stuff where there was thousands of people and whatnot. But
because I believe they played Wacken on that tour because there's a lot of footage of them playing songs there. I think it was Wacken because it's a very like
That-
it's an open air
Yeah, they-
type festival or whatever.
They did a couple of festivals over
Yeah.
there, so they definitely got to experience large crowds. But when you're just pulling your own name
Yeah.
and it's not a huge festival, they probably weren't always pulling like thousands of people to come and see death.
And we were getting into that point too, where you really had to be a hardcore death metal guy to really want to be at that show or like death or be involved in this extreme type music to be able to buy a ticket or a CD because like you said we're in the Seven Dust, Limp Bizkit, Korn era, right?
Yeah,
like,
music's
this is all
changed.
starting to change right now.
Yeah.
So, and you know how people just kind of there's some fair weather fans here. We are still talking about death 30 years later, but not many people are, what I mean?
And that style of music kind of came and went in terms of its peak real early, like 85 to 87.
Yeah.
Like death metal was a thing, and then people were like, yeah, it's kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
And then they moved on. But it stayed.
Yeah.
It stuck around, and it evolved, and we still have awesome extreme music. But in terms of its peak popularity, that probably came and went early. But here we are. We're catching like some second, third wave of it.
Yeah.
Now death's evolved into melodic death metal.
Yeah.
So again, probably not as popular as it once was, but it was still great to see and a great memory. And glad to have that experience and a shared one with you.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember anything about the ride home, but we are.
when I speak on this, I got a few stories to share
Okay.
about it. So when I get to that number for me,
Sure. What do you want?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
my first concert, or I should say, this isn't my first concert, but the first concert I'm going to speak of is I got to see Korn, Ozzy, Deftones at Wing Stadium.
Okay.
And the reason why this is on my list is I seen a few shows before this. I went to like Bush. I seen a few shows down at like Heritage Landing, like REO Speedwagon and stuff. But I really wasn't like into music. I was starting to get into music when I seen Bush and No Doubt at the Van Andel. But I like, went with my girlfriend when I was like Becky when I was like 16. Remember that girl or whatever, Lisa's friend or whatever. But this was kind of like my first, as I started playing music, getting into music. This was my first actual concert. I almost remember being scared going to this because I didn't really know what I was in for, right? Because you hear all the horror stories. My parents don't know anything about metal or anything. They just think you're going to die because it's heavy metal or whatever. You know what I mean? So, so I was kind of a little apprehensive going to this. Well, Dave's dad brought us there. He dropped us off and went and like caught a movie or something. He just dropped us off. We got in there. It was me and Dave, and we just sat until Ozzy came on. But I didn't know who Korn or Deftones were at this point at all. I wasn't exposed to them. I just remember being on the bus and this dude named Nate Soa. I don't know if you remember him. But
maybe.
He rode our bus. He always got off at Dave's stop. Anyway, he loved Korn, and he was always, Korn's so sweet. And I remember he was going to the show or whatever too. And I didn't really know. I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, wow, this is pretty heavy. Like I thought it was pretty cool. Obviously, I was a huge Ozzy fan at that time. So when Ozzy came on, I got down on the floor. I got right up there. I got,
So did you did not know Korn going into this?
Not one note.
Interesting.
Not one note of Korn. I was like, Deftones, that's a stupid name. What the fuck is that?
I thought it was Deftones.
That's what I thought it was too. I was like, that might be heavy. And I was like, Deftones, what the fuck is that? And what a cool concert, just kind of for my, like, I kind of labeled this one as my first experience just because it was music I really, really liked. I was really, really into. I just remember Zakk Wylde didn't play guitar that night. That was that Joe Holmes dude.
Yeah.
I just remember him shredding.
He was on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember how great this show was. It was that drummer, and I've said his name before on here. I can't remember his name.
Is it the guy from Faith No More?
Yeah, it's the dude from Faith No More with the long dreads. I
Yeah.
want to say his name is like Mike or something, but I could be wrong. I tried to bring him up before on the show, and I forgot his name, and I should remember it because he's a stellar drummer. He's like a lefty or whatever. But, man, I just remember it being such a cool experience. I remember Ozzy being so on point. And this was like Retirement Sucks tour for Ozzy in 1996 or whatever. So, like, here we are. He thought he was still trying to play a show recently or something.
Yeah, he's got a show lined up in the UK in London, I believe, this summer.
There's a bunch of bands on it, like Metallica.
All the bands.
All the bands, yeah.
All the great bands.
Yeah.
No filler. All fucking great bands. I was like I
Panteros.
showed it to Amy. I was
Slayer.
like, looks like we're going to London this summer, but I'm not. But
Yeah.
So the drummer's name is Mike Borden.
Okay, yeah, Mike.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's great, man. So, yeah, with that being said, I don't have a lot to speak about Korn or Deftones because I didn't know anything about them. I didn't start liking them until probably a year after this.
Right.
But this also kind of goes to what you're talking about with the death thing. So Korn and Deftones come on the scene now in '96.
Yep.
We're seeing that show in what was it, 90?
That Ozzy show?
No, the Death Show was at 98.
That was
right?
98.
Yeah. So 2 years of Korn and Deftones taking over, kind of.
Yeah.
That's where that evolution comes in.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, man, what a cool show! I just remember Dave's dad picking us up after the show. It was cool. First show I ever went to. I still got the ticket stub to it, and I just really remember being engulfed in Ozzy. I do remember a lot of the flashing, just because I was a horny young little 15, 16-year-old man, and all these.
I thought you meant strobe lights.
No, not them strobe lights. No, they're different kind of strobes. I was like,
fucking shut up. The headlights.
I was just like.
Oh my God!
I was like, oh man, I could get used to going to concerts. You know?
That's what it was.
That was there and gone after that. That was like only an Ozzy thing. You know,
Yeah.
it was like,
well, now you can go to these festivals and some women just walk around. And they're out. They got like black electrical tape over the nip naps, and that's it. Like, okay,
I'm married now though. I'm not just a horny little 15-year-old.
Oh, you catch a 2-piece for looking the wrong way.
Yeah, that's why I see that coming.
Shauna don't play.
I see that coming. I'm like, oh, that's a cumulus cloud.
Try to look out the peripheral vision.
Oh, the sun's bright today. I stared right into it as that lady was walking by.
I will allow my wife to let me know if a woman has a flattering figure, because they walk around with
it all on display.
Yeah, it's all out. And she had said to me at Sonic Temple, she's like, that woman can pull that off, like fishnet over the backside,
right.
And like, that's it. And I'm like, oh, you're telling me I can have
That's confirmation.
Agreed. She does wear it well. The fishnet over the butt is good.
Pulls it off.
Yep, she does a great job with it. But any other than that, I got to make sure she's looking the other way.
Yeah.
What's that? No, I'm just kidding. There's nothing to look at now.
It's just being a man. We can't help it, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking in our DNA.
We're wired to find the best reproductive mates.
And that's all it is. It's not trying to step out on our wives or anything. It's just the fact that it's just what we are.
Girls do it too.
Oh, yeah.
Stop. So I will speak to the same concert. It doesn't necessarily have to be like my number 4. I just kind of I know where I'm going for number 1.
Okay.
And these middle 3 could be interchangeable.
Whatever. Okay.
But I was there too.
This was on your list too?
Yep.
Oh,
yep. Also on my list. So I like I said, I looked at our lists after I built mine, and I was like, well, I don't know what he's going to speak to in what order, but it's funny, like 3 out of 5 were like the same.
The same.
Yeah. So I went down there with Rich Gunderman.
Okay.
His mom drove us down there.
This was before I even started kicking it with you guys, too.
Yeah, because
we didn't even really know each other at this point.
Not really.
Like you guys knew Dave, but I didn't really know you guys yet.
No, I mean, and we had like hung out a little bit through Dave.
Yeah.
Like playing some football in your front yard on Dangle and Klein.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, we kind of knew each other freshman year, but we didn't really kick it that deep.
Yeah.
Till like the next year, till we started a band or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I rolled down there with Gunderman and Chris Miller. Was a friend of mine at the time, and I remember like I sat up front. I don't know why. I'm in the front. I'm in the navigator seat, and Rich and Chris are like in the van in the back seat or the next seat back, and they're like looking at the tab book for Enter Sandman or something, and they're like air guitaring the solo, and Rich is like, I can do the whole thing, like I can mimic the whole lead by mouth, like I can just sing it. And they're looking at it, and I remember we'd get into Kalamazoo. We didn't know exactly how to find this venue, right? Wing Stadium. And I remember rolling. I'm 14. I remember rolling down the window, and there's like a group of girls walking on the sidewalk, and I was like, "Hey, you know where Wing Stadium is?" They're like, "No." And I was like, "We got candy." Rich's mom just fucking slaps me and just rolls up the window. She's like, "Shut up!"
Fucking mod being a creep.
Well, 14 again.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Yeah.
Going back to what we just said.
Yeah,
Get in. We got candy. I was terrible.
That's amazing.
Terrible. And they were of age, I'm sure. At least of
probably older than you.
Of my age, anyway.
Yeah.
But I remember. Okay, so I had knowledge of Korn at this time, not Deftones, didn't know anything about them, but I already had that Korn album, their self-titled debut, and I was big on it. It didn't sound like anything we were listening to at the time, but I was kind of open to whatever, and I was like, this is a mood. Like, this is intense. I'm for this, and as soon as I figured out they were coming, I was like, I'm going. And I remember being down on the floor after the Deftones. I kind of stood back and watched, and I just saw dreadlocks flying everywhere. between Stephen Carpenter, Chi Chang, and Chino Marino up front. So all you could see was dreads going everywhere.
Yeah.
And Chino was so intense, just jumping around. I think he did a crowd dive at some point. And they push him back up on. And I was like, I'm checking these guys out. Like, I don't even know what I just witnessed. I couldn't comprehend it. Definitely, we know Deftones very well now. Highly recommend that first album, Adrenaline. Great stuff. But for Korn, I like surged forward as far as I could. And then I could just feel that energy on the floor. I was like, this is really intense. Only my second concert experience, and I kind of knew what to expect, but it was just thicker. And I remember this guy looking over at me, flannel, long, stringy black hair, and he's like, dude, this ain't the place to be if you're afraid. And I was like, well, surely I won't die. And he's like, you might. Like, you might. So I remember at some point, I think it was this shoot. It was the Ozzy show. They had a barricade middle of the floor, like where the sound guy would be stationed. The audio engineers right in the middle of the floor.
Yep.
And there was just a whole left to right barricade across the floor, and you had to like step over it. So as I'm stepping over the barricade, I lose a shoe.
Oh fuck!
And I'm like, oh my, I step over, my sock goes into beer. Somebody like, hey, dude. And I'm thinking, I fucking lost it. Like, hands me my shoe.
Nice.
Oh my God, thank you. So, yeah, the crowd was way too intense. I had to bail. I'm a skinny 14-year-old kid, and you got a bunch of grown, wild men out there who are for this life. And I don't even think concerts get that. I mean, you can still get pretty intense, but I just feel like there was a certain raw energy back in the day when we would go and do the moshing and stuff. And it was too thick to form a mosh pit. Like, everybody's just pushing each other.
That
like
wave of fucking moving like this.
Ozzy put on a great show. I stood back for that and just took it all in and watched. And we kind of figured out how to all meet up later. Like,
Ozzy's not really the moshing type thing. It's more of a watching type thing.
But the Korn thing was like new energy for everybody. They were really coming up, and
that was like mosh metal music. Like that was the moving. That was part of that whole thing. Move to it. That's what you do.
So definitely one of my top concert experiences, taking place February 7th, 1996 at Wing Stadium. Saw a lot of good shows at that venue. As in my list, there's a lot of Wing Stadium noted. And I always wondered, like, what happened to that? Maybe it fell out of, current state of technology. Like, maybe they just didn't upgrade it. Maybe they said, we don't want to have these events here anymore because there's too much wear and tear on the venue.
Right.
Or maybe things like non-compete clauses put them kind of out of business. Like, no, things are happening at the Van Andel now.
Yeah,
we're not going to be able to do. And I don't know if that would fall into that range, like if Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids are that close. But I feel like one day, no more shows at Wing Stadium. It just fell off.
It just happened.
Yeah. And I don't know that they do or don't have shows anymore ever, but I never see anything go through there.
Yeah, there's never any announcements for Wing Stadium, Kalamazoo. You don't see a lot of shows going to Kazoo unless they're like smaller kind of shows.
Yeah.
So it's usually like Detroit or Grand Rapids, and that's about it.
But it used to get some great shows back in the day.
All right. Ready to move on?
What you got next?
All right, cool. So for me, I'm going to go with this show. This is a fairly newer show, actually.
Okay.
But it was so impactful on me. So this was on the Bleeding Through. They celebrated their 20th anniversary of This Is Love, This Is Murderous. One of my favorite albums of all time.
All right.
So originally I went there to see Bleeding Through. It was at the Crowfoot. And the Crowfoot's weird because anytime they have a show there, they have a shit ton of bands playing. It's weird because they have a stage upstairs, and then they have the main stage downstairs. And I think it was this particular show, they'd have a band playing downstairs, and then they'd have a band playing upstairs. They actually have another room, too, where other bands play. I'll talk about that in a second. So it's kind of cool because there was a whole bunch of openers. There was like 10 different like local bands, and then there was like the main show, and then some of the other bands played on the like main stage. So it was like band up, band down. So you kind of got time to go check out a couple songs for the band upstairs.
Right.
Go check out some songs and it worked out perfect because they only had those two stages going. But obviously I went there to see Bleeding Through. Got to see some really cool bands that night. Like See You Next Tuesday played. I got to see them, so that was really cool. They played on the main stage. Wounded Touch, another guys that been on the show or whatever. badass show. Like
Nice.
they were awesome. There were some other hardcore bands there, like Dead to Fall, Let It Die. Dead to Fall was really cool. Some other Two Peer to Die, that was another band. They were like just straight old school hardcore. So there was all kinds of hardcore because the Bleeding Through has a big hardcore audience too, not just metal, even though they are like really metalcore.
Yeah.
So tons of hardcore guys. All the dudes just just ripped ass dudes. Like I'm in good shape, but like see these dudes just like 19 years old, and I'm like, bro, you on that sauce? I can tell, man. But anyway, so Walls of Jericho. Don't know much about this band. I've heard things here and there. Never my really kind of bag because I just never really kind of into that kind of hardcore. It kind of left me at that point. There was other stuff. I like more of the metalcore, the melodic, that kind of stuff. Anyway, dude, these guys come out. Candace on the vocals. They're our age.
Yeah.
Fucking 37 minutes of just jumping around, pure fucking energy, pure chaos. Everybody's flying everywhere. Everybody's singing every song. The whole fucking venue. This place was shaking, dude. Like,
nice.
I've never seen anything like this. And like, Bleeding Through came out and put on a great show. I was glad I got to see him.
Right.
But Walls of Jericho blew the doors off this place, dude.
Right.
I just never seen anything like it ever in my life. And I've seen hundreds of concerts probably at this point, right? So it's like, I became a Walls of Jericho fan this day. Like, I didn't go back and start listening to a bunch of their music or whatever, but just knowing what a fucking show they put on. I mean, energy from beginning to end, jumping around the whole time. Everything sounded killer. The vocals the whole time. The guitar players just going fucking crazy, like jumping around. I was just like so impressed, dude. It was an awesome show because I got to see all these different bands, a few, like local from Michigan type bands. So it was cool. It was just a cool day of music, but like them playing, like I think they played like maybe third to last or second to last. It was just like, I'm done. I don't even need to see anything after that. Like I just never seen anything like it. And it kind of goes to speak for like the hardcore energy versus the metal energy, right?
Yeah.
Of the shows. And we've talked about that before on the show, but it's just the hardcore people, the hardcore music guys and gals know how to just make everybody a part of that music. And that's just kind of like their whole shtick. So it's like when everybody has that energy all in one spot, I wanted to sing along and I didn't even know lyrics. I was like, yeah, whatever. But it just, it's kind of like the Sissy Boys where it's just like they have that energy where everybody sings along, everybody's part of the show. And that's just so fun to me, man. It was just so... Just out of left field, I have to put them in one of my top concerts ever because it not only is it a fresher memory because it only happened in August 19 and 2023. It was just the fact that it's been a long time since I've seen anything with that kind of energy. Maybe since I've seen like Dillinger or something. And you don't really sing along with Dillinger.
No.
So it's like Dillinger plus singing along when everybody in the crowd's trying to stammer for the mic and it's just a mountain of people. Just remind me of the Sound of Perseverance cover, but it's just people and everybody's climbing over each other to try to get to the mic and they're just holding the mic out there like that, So yeah, I don't know. It was just, man, I had to put that on the list, dude, just because it was such a great show. So
it's a different level of energy and engagement with a hardcore band or a hardcore metal band versus just like a progressive melodic metal band. They're usually more focused on their instrumentation. And Luke, when we had Luke on the show talking about hardcore, he made that point as well. A lot of times these guys are just more into what they're doing on the stage, and they were wanting to deliver the best that they can as players. Guys in the hardcore bands are like, we know what we do. We've been doing this our whole lives. This is our life.
Yeah.
And they just bring that energy. It's more than just like playing your songs to the best of your ability. It's putting on the best show that you can. It's engaging with the fans. It's looking them in the eye and it's getting them going. It's jumping around, doing cartwheels, backflips, somersaults with your guitar.
Yep.
Just doing all of that. So I could see it in my mind when you tell the story. I just see waves of people and I see the hands in the air and I see all of the things that you're talking about on the stage because I'm familiar with that kind of show and what goes on. So I get it, man. It sounds like it would have been a good one to go to.
And the thing I loved about it is I wasn't that into Walls of Jericho. I never, not just for the fact that I'd never really got into them. I heard some songs and it just kind of sounded like some hardcore stuff to me where it's like, and things grow on you. But it was just blew me out that the best performance of the night was a band I didn't even really know much about.
Right.
And I love Bleeding Through that much. And you kind of want to be beholden to the people that you're there to see.
Exactly.
And, the reason why you were there.
Right.
But I just had to hand it to him. Of all the bands, and all the bands played, every band I seen that night was fucking pretty good too. You know, that was a great show.
Oh yeah.
But man, they just fucking blew the doors off that place. So that's mine, buddy.
I'm gonna take you back in time.
Let's go
Again, we're gonna go.
Let's go.
Mid-90s here.
Okay.
I had mid-90s.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to see Pantera, the real Pantera.
Let's make that clear.
Just so you know, 1990.
OGs.
August 12th, 1996, another concert at Wings Stadium in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
This was a killer bill. Unfortunately, I arrived late. It was a co-headlining tour, Pantera and White Zombie. But it also featured Deftones and I Hate God. Unfortunately, the people who I was riding with, they only wanted to see White Zombie, only. And we get there, and, like, White Zombie's, like, on stage. And the person, so this is my friend's mom, pretty cool mom, into White Zombie. She's pissed because she thought White Zombie should be the headliner over Pantera. And I'm like, maybe in another life.
Yeah, not this one.
Maybe on another tour. Maybe, but not today.
Yeah.
And she was mad. And I was pissed because I had just seen Deftones. What did I say? 6 months back, February.
Okay.
8 months back, something like that. And now it's August, so we're just a few months removed from me seeing the Deftones. Now I have the album. Now I'm familiar with things. Now I'm looking forward to it. Nope, not today. So I missed the Deftones. Not a big I Hate God fan. No diss. I just don't know a lot of their material, so I didn't even really know they were on the bill. But missing Deftones sucked. But White Zombie back in the day, Rob Zombie still goes on, just a shtick. But back in the day, they were pretty cool in my opinion. Rob catches a lot of flack for what he can pull off on stage live. Well, he's like a 60-year-old man now. Yeah. I don't really have a high standard or expectation of him to perform the way he used to. But, they bring the props and the light show, and it was an amazing spectacle. And I think that's some of the theme going forward with my list is the spectacle of it. Like, seeing death, they just go on stage and perform, right?
Pretty much what you just said.
Yeah,
they're in their thing. They perform. They do a good job, but they ain't jumping around.
Right.
They're kind of headbanging a little bit during certain parts, but it's very precise music.
Yeah. And then when you get to White Zombie, now you're starting to see like, hey, we're elevating the show to a show instead of just playing a dive bar as musicians in our t-shirts and jeans, whatever. Right. They were very colorful. A lot of, everything was kind of like almost tie-dye metal. Hot pink, bright yellow, green,
crazy hair.
Yeah, things woven into the dreadlocks.
Yeah.
So they themselves look like a spectacle. But then they've got all these undead zombie creatures mounted on pikes, and there's things coming down from the rafters, and there's all of this light spinning and swirling. You're like, oh man, I'm hypnotized. I'm into it. But that was great seeing White Zombie in their heyday. I think this is not Les Exorcisto, but Astro Creep.
Astro Creep.
Yep. So on their Astro Creep, their last album.
Yeah.
Which is a great album to go out on.
Badass album.
But this is Pantera during Great Southern Trendkill era.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. Like they've got Reinventing the Steel afterwards. I wasn't crazy about it. It was okay.
Yeah.
But I just had coming off of the Great Southern Trendkill, such a progressive leap from what they had done prior to that.
Yeah, there's a lot to that album.
Yeah.
It's very dense with a lot of different dynamics and things.
Again, another big mood album where it was more instrumental. Pantera just goes on, and they didn't need all that White Zombie brought. They could fall back on hey, we're awesome musicians and we've got dime in our band. So what more do we need? I know they had the big curtain.
Yeah.
And they come out and they do Suicide Note
drops.
Part 1. Yep. And then it drops and they go into Suicide Note Part 2 and they just fucking level you immediately. Yeah, just your face just barely holding stretching right off the skull. I think the big thing for me is just being able to see Dime in the flesh, and just watching Pantera at what I would call the peak of Pantera. Now, we did get to see them also in our backyard. And that was an awesome experience when it was
Neurosis,
Pantera,
yep,
Neurosis.
They played right up here, yep.
Neurosis was a good show.
Yeah.
They had the projector.
Yep, I remember that.
That was amazing.
Yep.
But I think just on the just being able to see Pantera, like, for real. I mean, I just remember Dime doing, like, the whammy pedal. I think he had somebody do it backstage, but I swear I remember him standing, like, doing the foot motion himself. Maybe he was just pantomiming it, because I think mostly he'd have somebody backstage doing it for him.
One of those guys on one of those videos. I remember that. He did Guitar Tech or something.
Yeah, but just watching Dime was amazing. Small in stature, but big in personality and character.
Jesus Christ, that dude could play, man.
Yeah.
I still will see videos of him playing. I'm just like, what a goddamn player that dude was, man. It was almost taken advantage of because he was just a happy-go-lucky party dude. But like, he took that fiddle so serious, man. He was a one-of-a-kind player. And there's some Dimebag freaks out there. They just fucking obsessed. They still fucking color their beard because of Dimebag motherfuckers out there. And they still have every Dime guitar. I was never that big of a fan. I always loved the videos because they always gave us that insight of backstage. And me and you always watch that shit because that's what made us who we are. It's like, dude, this shit is cool. This is the kind of life we like are all about, you know? But yeah, I actually seen a concert at Wing Stadium, Machine Head Pantera, Cold Chamber.
Okay.
And it was like same kind of thing. I've probably seen him like 4 or 5 times, but that was all on that tour too.
Yeah.
I've only seen him once after, and that was at that when they played with Slayer at Van Andel.
Okay.
Because that was the Reinventing the Steel tour.
Right.
So that was the only other time I've seen him on that. But every time I've seen him like 4 or 5 times, all on that album. So
for the younger audience that is now being exposed to Pantera in the
new Pantera,
in its current state, I implore you to dig up the archives of those old homeschool videos. What were they?
One was called 3, one was called The Cowboys from Hell, and like, I want to say it was like Further Beyond Driven or something like that.
Yeah.
That was that second one. We always jammed that one.
So this is a lifestyle that cannot sustain itself. You can't live like this.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that these guys could is an anomaly. Like, I don't understand how you can, be involved in this much excess partying all of the time. I don't remember what the name of the videos were. Have you got it?
3 Vulgar Videos from Hell.
Yeah. The vulgar video sets.
Yeah,
like, if you watch,
there's 3 of them,
and I think 3 is about all you need because I think they have some of the. That's gonna have like all of the stuff.
Yeah. So the Cowboys from Hell, the videos.
Yep.
That one's like 40 minutes long. Then you got the Vulgar Video. That's the one we watched all the fucking time.
Yep.
The second one.
Yep.
That's Vulgar Video.
Yeah, we
and then
watched
you
the
have
shit of
3 Watch It Go, which was 2 hours long. So
Yeah.
it was even more stuff, but they obviously did more. And
Yeah.
then they have a couple more that were like just the music videos, because there's the music videos
Right.
like strewn throughout the actual
Yeah, you'd have to,
home
like-
videos and shit.
Yeah, you'd have to like wait a half an hour and just see all these random clips, and we would just watch in amazement and be like, "Oh my god, these guys are wild!"
Yeah.
And you think that's the life I want. I want to, like, my life is a party. I
Yeah.
want to do. You can't.
No, you can't.
It's not
Yeah.
realistic. You could barely do anything in the music industry as it is. They got you working 50 hours a week just to pay rent or mortgage. And then you got to like cobble together time with your mates to do band practice, and then you're hoping your mates show up sober, so you can
Show up ready to go.
make progress. It's just
Right.
it's not a sustainable life, period. Let
Right.
alone trying to be a band. But it's fascinating to watch that human beings could do this. So I implore people to watch those videos because they got great videos as it is. Those videos are fun to watch.
Yeah.
But all that behind the scenes footage, that's you're not going to get that anymore.
It was so much fun. Those were so fucking cool,
Yeah.
dude.
So that was, both Pantera experiences. We'll just kind of group them together.
Yeah.
Phenomenal concert experiences. Getting to see Dime live twice. Obviously, you can't get that now. You can go watch Zach do it with Charlie behind the kit. And play those songs and try to capture that energy. And I'm sure Phil can still do his thing and Rex, but. Like being able to see Dime, I just had to mention like another feather in the hat. Like, yep, badge. I got to see Dime.
I got a pick from him right there, sitting right there.
I got a
one
pick.
of the ones that he threw out.
Yeah, I got a pick too. I don't know if it was Dime's or Rex's, but it is one of the Pantera Cowboys from Hell picks. So
yeah, I unfortunately at the time you don't know, and that's just one of those things about life. live every moment to the fullest, man, because of the fact that we took advantage of that. Oh, we'll see Dime again. He'll come back around. We've seen him a handful of times. He's so damn good, but we're fans of Pantera. We like it.
Yeah.
When he went to the Damage Plan thing, whatever, that was all fucking, whatever. Maybe they could have patched it up around the bend, but not having the guy around anymore, period, is just sad. Same thing with Chuck. At least we got to see Chuck once.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that, man, don't take advantage of any of these concert experiences or any experiences in your life, because that could be it, man.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of knowing that you want to do something, like knowing that I got to see this band and just dropping everything and doing it. Like, hey, this band from Europe, they don't come to America very often. Once every 2 years, if you're lucky, if there's still a band in 2 years.
Right.
And if it means driving to Chicago or Detroit and making it, or Columbus, whatever it is, if it means making a day or a weekend of it, if it means that much to you, do it, because you might not get that chance again. This band might not come back from overseas. Case in point, when I got to see Ulcerate, they're from New Zealand.
Yeah,
they're not coming to the U.S. very often. They're not going to do tour after tour and hop on and be with this band. Nope. I saw they were coming to the United States. I was like, I'm going. Period. I'm buying a ticket here and now, and I'll figure the rest out as I go. And I love that mentality. Even as you're an adult, just buy the ticket, go for the ride, right? Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
Buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yep.
You'll figure it out. You'll as the week approaches. Hey, by the way, I'm either getting this day off or I'm calling in sick.
Yeah.
And you got a friend like, hey man, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do
go.
it. So, definitely get those experiences in. Jay, what's next for you after the great Pantera ride?
I'm going to take you back a little bit, not as far back as the mid-'90s there, but we're going to go to Thursday, July 23rd, 1998, Ozfest.
Oh.
So I got to go to this Ozfest. This was the second Ozfest.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I never did get a chance to go to an Ozfest. I think back in the day, festivals weren't going to be for me, but nowadays I don't mind. It just has to be a good lineup.
So, hang on just a second here, because I got this link or whatever.
Yeah.
But
was this after the video? Like after I had the VHS? And
we watched that a whole bunch of times, right?
Yeah, and then you're like, I'm going.
Yep.
I'm going.
And okay. So check this lineup out. Ozzy Osbourne.
Of course.
Natural. Tool.
Love it.
Megadeth.
Yes.
Limp Bizkit.
Okay.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time.
Seven Dust.
Sweet.
Soulfly.
Okay.
Cold Chamber.
Not bad.
System of a Down.
Yes.
Second stage. Motorhead.
All right.
Melvins.
Okay.
Incubus.
Yes.
Snot.
Yes.
Ultra Spank.
Nice.
Life of Agony.
Yep.
Kilgore and Monster Voodoo Machine.
All right.
So I stayed mostly on the main stage. So funny story about this is like we get there. I don't even remember who I was with, honestly, because like I said, Mexican brickweed at the time, whatever, there's a lot of it flying around at this time.
Fuck that. Scrambled.
Some seeds and stems everywhere. But
dust.
Yeah, just fucking whatever. But I stayed mostly on the main stage, so I got to see mostly everybody. But one of the big reasons why I went to this show is to see Snot. Because I fucking loved Snot at this time, and like the new metal shit's popping off. Obviously, you've seen all the people on this. But I mean, come on, dude. Ozzy, Tool, Megadeth.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like you're not gonna see a show like that ever again, obviously. Right. And this was like Tool before this was Tool on the Anima tour.
Mm-hmm.
So badass album as it was or whatever, and they put on a super cool show as well. I mean, but this whole show, I mean, what a fucking lineup that is. I didn't even really know who Incubus was at this time. So the story about this show is great show, right? Great lineup, cool outside venue. Was at like Pine Knob or something, Yeah. So, pretty uneventful day. Just went and enjoyed the show. But I guess the big thing was it was a time where I got to see this amount of bands in one day and this caliber of bands in one day. Here we are, 30 years almost removed from this almost. And so it was super cool. But I remember I missed Snot because they were like first on the second stage, and I didn't know where the second stage was. I never been to an Ozfest. I didn't know where the stages were. I just seen the big main stage, and we walked in line, and we got there, and we're watching, whatever, Cold Chamber or System of a Down, and then we finally find the second stage, and then we realized that Snot had played first on the second stage.
leave.
So this is kind of a dual parter. So the next day they played an off date. Soulfly headlined. System of a Down, Incubus, and Snot all played a show in Kalamazoo State Theater.
Yeah.
So
that one I was at. That was like wasn't that the Snowcore tour? Like aside from, so they did Ozfest, but I thought that was also
it was like its own off tour. Date. Yeah. So the next day, I woke up and bought tickets and went to that show in Kalamazoo because I was like, I went to Ozfest to see Snot.
Right.
So I did a two-dayer. And think about the bands on the second day, though. Soulfly, okay, whatever. I didn't really care one way or the other. I still kind of don't. I mean, it was cool to see Max, but, you know.
Yeah, that was what it was about.
I was always kind of a Sepultura fan at the end of the day. I just never really liked the Soulfly material. But I mean, fuck, dude. System of a Down, Incubus, and Snot. Like, Incubus is huge. Yeah. So is System of a Down. Like this was in their heyday, right? This was like just coming out.
Yeah.
So, but to be able to actually see Snot, and I know they're playing again with a new singer, and he sounds awesome, and I know they're even coming to Battle Creek, and I just always been such a huge Snot fan. It was just cool to be able to like go the next day and see Snot because they put on a hell of a show or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of kicked myself in the ass because I've seen Incubus 3 times, and every single time I was like, what is this? I don't even like this. And then, like, I started becoming a huge Incubus fan, and now trying to get tickets to an Incubus show is, like, next to fucking impossible because they're selling out the Van Andel Arena, and I seen them at this time when they had the one album out, and the dude was still playing the Congo drum and all that. Yeah, the djembe, and, you know, so, and it was just another one of those things where I didn't know better. I didn't really like it, and then all of a sudden I just grew into this huge, I really love Incubus, dude. I'm a huge fan of theirs. Like, I like a lot of their catalog. Even some of their newer shits were really good.
Yeah.
So, that was just kind of my tour. It was cool to go to an Ozfest to see all those bands, especially after we watched that video. I think it was 96 Ozfest maybe with Cold Chamber and that was 97 because it had Vision of Disorder on there, right? Neurosis,
yes, for sure. I don't remember Vision of Disorder. I'm not saying they're not, but I just don't remember it. No, Earth Crisis.
That was the first year, so that was 1996. Yeah.
Cold
Slayer,
Chamber.
Danzig, Biohazard. Sepultura,
Fear Factory, yeah.
So that was 96. But we watched a shit out of that video. That was another one that was in rotation with those Pantera videos that we always watched all the time. Was that Ozfest 96? We watched that thing so many damn times, man.
And the thing that's funny about it when you think about it is, you know, VHS. You don't just skip to the song you want to watch. You don't just have that immediate gratification of just pull up the 2 or 3 I want to watch. You had to sit there and watch it. Maybe you'd have to rewind it just to start it, you know, but there was no fast forwarding it. You just ruined the tape when you fast forward it, so you just played it only and let it roll. Maybe you didn't like a song, you'd get up and go to the bathroom or get a drink of water or something, but yeah, we'd have to let those VHS ride. I never did get to go to an Ozfest, but it sounds like a great time.
It was badass, man.
That's awesome. Now, next for me, every Tool concert I ever went to.
Okay.
Every single one. All of them. Now, I was in my mind, I thought my first Tool experience was other than it actually was. But that's the concert I'm going to speak to first, and then I'll kind of I'll briefly just run down all the times I've seen Tool.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
I thought the first time I saw Tool was with the Melvins, again, July 15th, 1998, at Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
I remember one thing I remember about it is, well, first of all, I was again on the floor, you know, and I'm like 17 years old, so I'm thinking I'm tough. I know what to expect. I'll do it. I remember when they came out, and you know, finally the lights come up, and I think whatever they were playing. I have all these links, but they came out with whatever song, and Maynard is standing there in boxers only, painted blue head to toe. Right down the middle, like dark blue, light blue. And he's got 2 microphones. One's got like maybe a vocal effect on it, and then the other one is maybe more just a normal vocal mic. And I just remember like the lights bouncing off of his eye and just the intensity of the crowd. And they didn't necessarily have like the laser light show at that point, but they had the monitors. And so you'd have like the visuals going on, the monitors in the back. And at some point, again, I just decided this crowd is too intense for me, even though I knew what I was in for a couple of years removed from, or just a year or so removed from like Korn and Ozzy. I'm like, let's go. At some point, I just decided I just want to watch the show. And so I go and find a spot to stand. These days they don't play a whole lot of their big hit sober, but I remember they played it that night. And what they did, Adam Jones sat down cross-legged. He's got his guitar, so he's sitting down on the stage, and he had some hair clippers, like some Buzz hair clippers, and he's like just like taking it to the pickups.
Oh.
And just making like 15 minutes of random bullshit noise. And it even now as I think about it, it's like, Christ, too much of this.
Yeah.
But they did it, I think, to like calm the audience down. This is how rabid fans were back in the, just like, I know you see Wall of Death videos and people engaging. I think back in the day, people were just out to kill somebody. They just really couldn't help themselves because you didn't have so many other outlets.
Right.
I think you have today.
Yeah.
So you get out to these concerts. And
Less
people,
options, too.
Yeah.
If a concert came through, you better go.
Yeah,
because there
everybody's
isn't
going.
75 concerts like there is. Like,
Yeah.
oh, next week there's another show. Next week there's
Yeah.
another. It's not like it is
Yeah.
now. It's so saturated now.
Yeah.
Back then when Tool came around,
Yeah. Again,
that was the show for the month.
and you'd go out and you'd stand in line
Right. For the ticket.
for the tickets, and you'd be up hours early. And maybe we'll have time for some other experiences that we'll talk about. But yeah, this is actually my second time seeing Tool. Great experience, just again with the visuals and the monitors, and they would go on to just improve on their live show all the time going forward. I remember the first time though we saw them was July 26th, 1997, Lollapalooza.
Yep.
It was supposed to have Korn on the bill, but
Yep.
Monkey was sick.
Yep.
So Korn did not perform that day, but we also got to see Snoop.
Snoop Dogg, yep. That was on my honorable mention list because that was one of the. I only seen Tool the 2 times at Ozfest and then on that Lollapalooza.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Both
only
on Anima too.
Yeah, only
Yeah.
the old school memories for you.
Yep.
I remember at Lollapalooza, so this is at what would be like Pine Knob or DTE
Yeah,
Energy
something
Clark.
like that. It was outside.
So
yeah.
that venue has changed a lot over the years.
Yes.
Because I've been there in more modern recent
me
history.
too.
Back in the day, it was just a green sloped hill all the way. Well, now when you get to like a certain point, it's like cement and they've got bleachers.
They got
there.
chairs or whatever in there.
Yeah, it's like, they've got chairs but
Yeah.
before it was just dirt and grass.
Yeah.
And you'd have wooden benches. And I
Yep.
remember they were playing the title track to Anima, and we were doing the Learn to Swim thing, and we were all of us that went to that Lollapalooza were standing on the wooden benches, and we're trying to stomp our foot through the benches. We're like, learn to swim, and we're just like stomping so hard. The people over next to us are like, what is wrong with these guys? But we're just a bunch of angry metalheads, and we're
Yeah.
just like trying to break
Teenage
things.
angst.
Lollapalooza back in the day, pretty cool. I did go on to see them twice on the Lateralis tour, both times with Meshuggah.
Okay.
The first time was supposed to be 9/11, 2001.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the terrorist attack on the Twin Towers in New York, so they bump that. Everything shuts down. Nobody's doing shit except like, oh my God, we're watching the TV.
Yeah.
What's happening? Well, they go forward with the show. They just a mere 2 days later, which in and of itself is kind of amazing, because wouldn't they? Maybe supposed to be in another city. Well, nobody could fly. Everything's grounded.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah.
So what would normally be like a rescheduled or a postponed date, they just said, well, we're just going to play 2 days later. And so the show went on at the Van Andel September 13th, 2001. And really, like, I'd already seen Tool twice. And of course, I'm going to see him again. But the fact that they had Meshuggah opening back then,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to this. So this
Yeah.
is a testament to how long I've been a Meshuggah fan.
Right.
Well, I'm down there moshing to Meshuggah. I don't know. I think they're just on the Chaosphere album at this point. I take a knee to the groin, and I'm like,
Ooh.
I'm done. Like, that's like, ow, that hurt. Like, I can't breathe. My stomach hurts. So I ended up actually taking a break during Meshuggah and watching the show. And a lot of strobe lights. But then when Tool got on, I actually managed to go and get all the way up to like the front row, the bar, and hang there. So that's pretty intense. What had happened though is whatever they had covering the ice on the floor, like some rubber mats or something,
Yeah.
it gave way. So you had a space of ice,
Oh.
like or something,
Or like the hockey.
yeah, like
yeah.
something. Like, I don't know how they cover the ice up other than what was there.
Yeah.
But the crowd was surging so much, and the feet were just like almost just like slipping. that the floor gave way. So there wasn't as much surging after that. So I was able to like kind of go forward because people weren't pushing as much in that area. Well, one guy, big dude, he was like, I'm done. And he's like, here, man, you in here. He gave me his front row seat or position along the rail. So got to watch Tool right up close.
Hell yeah, that's badass.
Like, right on the front.
That kicks ass.
Saw them again on the Inside Out tour later, a year later with Meshuggah again, Kalamazoo Wing Stadium.
Okay.
They did something like the instrumental off of Lateralis, Triad, I think. So a couple of the members from Meshuggah came out to do like some percussive work on some drums.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So like 3 or 4 of the guys from Meshuggah with hoodies pulled up, drawn tight. That was awesome. Got to see them on the 10,000 Days tour with a band called Big Business at the Van Andel.
Okay.
Awesome laser light show. The Van can really put on a good show still these days. I still feel like a great place to see a concert anytime in an arena tour. And then lastly, I got to experience them on the Fear Inoculum tour with Killing Joke at the Little Caesars Arena.
That was just like pretty recent because that just came out like, what, 3-4 years ago now?
Right on the heels of COVID. So we're November 9th, 2019.
5 years ago. Okay.
Yep, yeah.
That's about right because I heard they're working on some new shit. So
it's
it'll be
hard
another
to
5 years before it comes out.
It's hard to believe that was already 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, since then, the lead vocalist of Killing Joke has passed away.
Oh, Jesus.
So,
That's
yeah.
terrible.
So I got to see Killing Joke. Pretty cool band. I'm still not going to sit here and say, like, oh, I love Killing Joke, but I know they have a cult following and people love them. But the Fear Inoculum tour, they come out, they had this really weird 3D, like, I don't know, like tapestry. Like, we talked about it with Ross.
Oh, yeah, it's like the laser.
Yeah, it's just such a unique experience. Yeah. So, Tool, if you haven't seen Tool yet, great band. They only get better live. They only bring more of the magic and the entertainment spectacle to the stage as time goes on. So, always worth seeing. I've bagged on the album a lot, the new one, Fear Inoculum. I just can't. Like, it was fun to listen to like one time, but everything's 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
Give me a song I can like digest that I can just say like, yeah, that one, cool. Like, I can't do these 15-minute tracks, dude, and they just go on at length.
Oh,
so,
I hear you.
I'm hoping that when they come out with a new album, we've got some 5 or 6 minute tracks on it that we
give
can
me something, a little more digestible. That's kind of where I'm at nowadays with a lot of music, but.
I'll just say that I'll go to Tool again at some point. Like, I'm sure I will if you know they come around again, and hopefully in the next couple of years here, because I'm like everybody else, I'm tired of waiting. Like, let's go, let's have it. Like, this 10-year cycle thing is for the birds. But yeah, any Tool experience, fucking great, love it.
Hell yeah.
Jay?
All right, I'm going to talk about this experience, and this is probably on your list too. I also want to be mindful of time because it is 11:20. These guys will be here at 12. So
sweet.
I don't want to drag on too long on some of this, and we actually talked about this concert on the show before, like with Chantel's episode or whatever.
Yep.
Marilyn Manson.
Oh,
I'm not a big Marilyn Manson fan. I'll go on to say, real quick, let me back up. Do you know, though, Maynard had to have, like, hip replacement surgery because he used to stomp on stage all the time, and for him doing that over and over and over, it fucked up his hip, and he had to get, like, a hip replacement surgery.
When was this?
And he, like, does jujitsu and shit or whatever, but it was some years back or whatever, but he's, like, really good friends with Joe Rogan, so he'll go on there and he'll talk. They don't talk a lot about... They talk about some music, but he talks a lot about his wine and stuff. But that's what he said on there is it's from him. Remember, because I visualized that when he got the 2 mics, and that was like always his move, just to fucking stomp like that. He had to get a hip replacement because he was doing that for so many years.
he would do like I remember I can see it in my mind. He would do that stomp and that step, but he would do like a huge like a kick, like it would forward kick stomp, like he would flat-footed,
like lungy kind of thing.
Yeah, he would do this stomp, but he would also like I'm telling, man, what a great front man. Like, he's a really calm, quiet, reserved person when you get him talking.
Yep.
Highly intellectual person. Knows a lot about a lot of things. I love listening to him. Esoteric dude. But watching him come to life, especially back in the day when he was a bit of a younger man, had a little bit more energy.
Yeah.
Now he's like 60-ish. Yeah. So I saw him on the Fear Inoculum tour. Like, there was times where, and he's being a bit of a character. He was playing one of the songs off of 10,000 Days, and he's like laying down.
Yeah.
Like, he's like laying down.
This is my stage move now. Long day of jiu-jitsu. I'm laying down.
I'm tired. Loved watching Maynard. Loved watching Tool. Great band. But tell me about this Manson show.
Yeah, so Marilyn Manson. April 30th, 1997. So a lot of these in the late 90s here of shows that were very memorable for me. So, some first experiences. Yeah, going back to this, go on to say, I'm not a huge Marilyn Manson fan. I do like the Antichrist Superstar. I said that before, maybe once or twice on the show. I try to go back and listen to some of their other catalog. Music kind of sucks to me. So I don't know if it was just like the thing. Antichrist is a banger though. But this happened at Wing Stadium, Kalamazoo. It was the Dead to the World tour.
Yep.
Says Rasputina and Helmet, and this says Pist.On was on there too, but maybe they weren't on that date because I don't remember seeing Pist.On on that. But they must have been jumped on this tour or fell off this tour, wherever this tour became and went or whatever.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Pist.On. That would have been great, but I don't remember them being there that day.
So this tour, it says it went from September 5th, 1996 till September 16th, 1997, playing a total of 175 shows through Europe, Japan, Oceania, and North and South America.
So that was about a 1 year, 12 months? Is that what it was? And they did 175 shows in 12 months.
That's what it says through all the continents. So he was riding this out, and this was on the Antichrist Superstar.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
This goes to what you always talk about and what you talked about with White Zombie, just the spectacle of the show.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because they jam, they're a little punk rock. Like, they're not really anything spectacular musically or whatever. But I just remember, like, him being on the stilts, the snow coming down, just him commanding of the crowd when he gets on the little pulpit thing. Just like, everything was just so, like, here I am. I'm a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, yeah.
Here's my music. And like I said, Antichrist is a jammer. There's a lot of good songs on that, and I still fuck with that album. But this was Marilyn Manson's time. It helped with the mystique at this time, too, because, all of the rumors, Paul from Wonder Years, sucking his own dick, blah, 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 blah.
Got the rib removed.
Yeah, this whole, like, that's a lot of work just to get a rib removed. Come on, man. Like,
and this is before, like, internet rumors could spread.
Yeah,
like,
this was just word-of-mouth bullshit.
Yeah, the whole country, the whole planet's talking about this guy removing his own rib and being the former member of the Wonder Years.
Yeah. And then that people were picketing outside, like fucking God save us, and so it just added to the whole experience. And I was going to what you were talking about I was just a pissed off, angry kid. I think we both were at this time. We didn't really know why. We didn't have nothing to really be mad about. I mean, I guess we did. If you dig into it, fathers, divorces, all that shit. Shit that we deal with in life, and we've hopefully come to terms with, but. Yeah, dude. I just remember this being an amazing show. Helmet ruled. Rasputina, I don't have a really big memory, but just the commanding presence of Marilyn Manson, just loving it so much. And I was just on a cloud nine for multiple days after this, just because of the experience of the show. So,
right.
Other than that, I don't really have too many other memories. Once again,
I've got a few memories from that show because this is probably the best concert I ever went to.
Okay.
Same. Dead to the World Tour, Manson, Rasputina Helmet, April 30th, 1997 at Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo. First of all, I remember we were all talking about going, hey, do you want to go see Manson? I'm kind of wishy-washy. And I'm like, I'm not a big Manson fan, guys. I'm just like, they're like, well, you like, I remember, I think it was Beardsley maybe. He's like, well, you like Helmet, right? You want to go see Helmet? Like, just, come on, dude, you got to go with us. Like, almost giving into that peer pressure, right? And I'm like, well, it's, it's a school night. I'll ask my parents, whatever. But I was pretty sure I was going to be able to go. Like, they had already allowed me to go to concerts, and I had to convince them, though, that a school night, I could make it to Kalamazoo and back and still go to school the next day. Somehow I got permission to go to this thing. I'm like, yeah, we're just going to, go, come back, spend the night at Floyd's house, and catch the bus in the morning. And we did all that.
Yeah.
But I remember Helmet, I was up close to the stage, and they did the song they do with House of Pain.
Okay.
Just Another Victim.
Yeah.
And they omitted, obviously, all the rap part.
House of Pain part, yeah.
Yeah, but they just still jam that riff for like 3 minutes. I'm like, there's a lot of this riff with no bars happening right now. And it's just like open note. It's just chugging for like 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Rasputina being on stage and making some kind of like smart aleck comment about Helmet fans being a bunch of like just straight normie boys.
Yeah, just regular guys with t-shirts and jeans type shit. Yeah.
Bunch of, backed up from balls to brains boys.
Which we were. You nailed it.
But I enjoyed all of that night. But with respect to Manson, the costume changes.
Mm.
You know, he comes out, he's on the podium, he's wearing like the presidential suit.
Yeah.
He's got the big Marilyn Manson red Antichrist flag behind him.
The flag thing.
Yeah, and it's draped over the podium too. And he's sitting up there. He looked like an animatronic machine. You know, like the Chuck E. Cheese thing, the motions.
Yeah.
The big scary face, like the Joker Brand X smile.
Yeah, because of the all the lipstick and the makeup and shit. Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, this guy is so intense. You know, he'd come out on the stilts with the roller front legs, and he's just like, 10 feet tall, wheeling around. At some point, he's just wearing probably the leather trousers and no T-shirt at all, and he's commanding the audience to spit on him. And I was standing way back at this point, and I just remember seeing just all of this spit, and he's sitting there just doing the Christ pose, the Antichrist guy, and everybody's spitting on him, and I'm like, that is god awful.
That is fucking nasty.
That's the worst thing I've ever seen. You'd have him. He was out there tearing up the Bible.
Yep.
He had the Bible.
Yeah.
And he's ripping pages out of it. Just this dude's straight on the highway to hell.
Yeah.
And so just all the costume changes. I remember looking over at you at some point. You're moshing, and you got blew out, just annihilated. And I felt so bad for you because it was big. Matt Carafel. I was like,
oh, okay.
I like Matt, and I don't think you and him were friends at all. But I had classes with him, and I was like, oh man, I like Matt, but he just destroyed my boy because he's twice the size of you. And I was like, Jade, I hope he's all right, man. And I remember you just hands on knees for a minute. You're like, I'll be fine. I just need to learn to. I need to learn to breathe again.
Yep.
But
knocked out of me.
Yeah, but then we all went home. We all went to Floyd's house in the basement, and all had a couch section or a chair or a recliner, and just I don't know, 7, 8 of us slept in the basement that night. Got up, made it to school the next day, and everybody was just in awe of us having gone to this concert. You guys went to that concert last night on a school night, So
do what we have to do for music. Man.
Yeah, I don't even think I was 16 at the time. I was just a couple days short of turning 16. Each of us.
Yeah.
So just still a young little whippersnapper of 15 years old. So, yeah, great show.
So that's your number one?
Yeah, I would have to say, that's just one that sticks out in my mind. I got a couple honorable mentions that were more recent.
Okay, we'll go over theirs. We got a couple minutes yet.
Yeah.
So, for me, this would have been my number one, but I just want to speak real quick on my number one, which is basically your number 5. And it's just Death.
Yeah.
And the only reason why that takes number one for me, concert experience-wise, Marilyn Manson tops it.
Yeah.
But just to say I seen Chuck.
Right.
We had those few interactions. Me and you got to go.
Yes.
A few stories I wanted to share. I remember one time you were talking about driving. You scared the fuck out of me because you cut off this 18-wheeler, and it had it was one of those 18-wheelers full of cars, and you were just so engulfed in trying to keep up with Cooter or whoever was in that front car that you were just all you wanted to do was catch up to them. You didn't care how it happened. You ripped off the road, almost cut this guy off. I seen his whole shit shaking. I'm like, God damn, this dude's gonna fucking kill us, man. Fucking, I might not death might be prevalent more than one way tonight.
Oh, I'm going to see Death tonight.
One way or the other.
We're going. Grim Reaper on a sickle. Let's go, boy.
And then the show, whatever, you puking, me calling that out. I got a drumstick from Richard Christie, so that was cool. Don't know where the fuck it's at, so that sucks because
But you got it.
Yeah, I got one, so that was cool.
I got a guitar pick from that show.
Okay, yeah,
it's just a green,
just random
Dunlop jazz.
Yeah, I got that up over there too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we spoke mostly on it. It was just funny though. On the way home, same kind of deal happened. We stopped at some gas station to get gas.
That's right.
And we got some food. And for some reason, those guys, Cooter and Kurt, and those guys are out of their fucking mind. You know what I mean? R.I.P. Cooter because he's not with us anymore.
He's gone.
But those guys were just on a different level of fucked up shit. Them guys were just no brakes. No cool, just everything was
chill.
all the way to 100 with those guys all the fucking time, right?
Yeah.
So, you are the company you keep, so we could have headed down that road. Luckily, we didn't. But I remember them, for some reason, you were following them to get home.
Yeah.
Speeds out of the fucking gas station And then you just rip out right after, and there's a cop in the gas station, so he pulls us over as soon as we get on the fucking highway.
Yeah.
So we get pulled over. We got my cousin, you got Dennis and Kurt in the back. Kurt told him a different name because half the time Kurt at that time was like, had some kind of warrant, so he told him his brother's name or some shit. So he had to he stepped out of the car with him.
Oh my
but
God.
luckily, like, put him back in the car, and then somehow we still made it home because we lost those guys because they fucking ripped out of there.
Yeah.
And you were trying to rip out of there to follow them, and then fucking we got pulled over.
Yeah.
So somehow we made it home after that, but I vividly remember that. But I still have the Sound of Perseverance shirt from that show.
Oh, my God.
And I shared most of the stories with what you said, but for me, that was my number one, just to say I seen Chuck, just because he was such a big influence on me musically, and I've always just kind of looked up to Death as, like,
Yeah.
that's cream of the crop. And, you know, if bands and taste changes over the years, but they never kind of, out of my top bands ever, they've never kind of fell out of number 5 for
Right.
me. You know what I mean? They've
Right.
always stayed up there.
Yeah.
That concert's always stayed in my memory of one of those things that you can't take advantage of because we got a chance to see them. And I feel like it was cool, like, if you got to see them in individual thought patterns, you can brag about to me all that you want.
Yeah.
But I got to see them when they were tip-top pure shape. They had all of the albums out.
Yep.
You could give me a couple deep cuts from some stuff. You could play some Pull the Plug for me.
Yep.
You could play some stuff of the old shit, but I got to see the spectacle of Sound of Perseverance, which of all time, little power metal, but what a technical fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like, what a great album that was. So, yeah, that's my number one, man, and just because of the fact that it was Death, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it makes my list, you know, I talk about spectacle and stage show and presentation as being a big part of the concert experience, right? This is just seeing some guys that can play. And play like no other, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you're going to just do that and you're not bringing no video monitors, no banners, no lasers, you know, no strobies, not just a little light show maybe, you know, that the house lights are doing, you better be able to play.
Yeah.
Like, you better be able to engage the audience with your playing. And, it makes the list on the back of the Badge of Honor. Got to see Chuck Schuldiner. There are people that can say that. Many people can say that, but fewer the further you get away from that point in time.
Yes.
You know, not all of those people, like you just mentioned, Cooter, not with us. So some people no longer with us, Chuck no longer with us, you know, Dime no longer with us.
Yep.
So being able to say, I got to see those people, you know, like that's kind of why it ranks so high. You don't always have to bring the presentation like we'd like. Like these days, I got to have more presentation.
Yeah.
Like, show me the mud vein, show me the costume get up, like show me all the lights and the monitors and the visuals. Like that's part of the experience too. Otherwise, I might just sit at home in the dark and play your record.
Right.
You know, like I don't have to go and see you live. It's gonna sound better on the record album anyway. You know what I mean? So.
I can I just say this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
I just want to say this too. I'm actually glad it moved to the IROC because we maybe weren't as close as what we were because we were on his fucking feet there in front.
Right there.
And that's what I liked about it. It reminded me of those days we played at Cuties. Everybody's in your fucking face. It's right there. Like, we are doing this thing, and it's right here. And we said this a million times on the show. Also, we got the picture in the Sound of Perseverance remaster, so y'all go check that out.
Yeah.
Our picture's in that bitch because that's where we were at. So, like, you know.
I think
Can't forget that part of it.
Yeah, the picture of us exists.
Yeah.
I found another photo, a rare photo. Somebody was posting. I don't know if it was on a page dedicated to Death or just like an OG death metal page. But somebody posted this photo of Chuck, and I'm like, hey, there's Chuck, cool. And I looked closer at it, and it was a different angle shot of that night at IROC.
Oh,
and
me and you standing there?
Yeah, and I looked at it, I was like, damn, I'm in this motherfucking photo. And I like screen capped it, and then I did an edit where I circled us and I drew some lines. I was like, J.
Yeah, I think you
Mod.
sent it to me or whatever.
So that's cool. So those photographs exist. That's so wild to me. And again, having to see Death at like the end of their career, where they could play all the material. They played over 20 songs that night.
Yeah.
And that record exists. Those set lists exist. The Death Live in L.A. exists. That was the show.
Yeah.
So they're playing over 20 songs in a night. I mean, that's incredible. Most bands, local bands, DIY bands, they're lucky to get played 5-6 songs in a night.
Yeah.
They're playing 20 or more songs of their best material, and they're on point, every one. Like, there was no, like, I don't know about this one. Maybe
Yeah.
we should cut it. It was like, you ready? Let's go.
Let's
Count
go.
me in.
Yeah,
Let's do
we're
it.
going. Yep, and the drum solo and all that shit.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that, and then just on a quick note, it was funny because I knew you were on this website, but I'm trying to look up all this information about
Yeah.
it, and I happened to just accidentally stumble across the empty words.
Yeah.
And then I'm like reading all the things, and then because it was kind of about that,
Oh,
and
just
then I read your comment, and I remember you being on there saying you were on there, but it was just funny because I was reading the comments, and I was like, that kind of sounds familiar. And then I looked at the name. I was like, oh, that is Nick's comment because that kind of sounds like our experience or whatever. So
Yeah,
that was kind of cool, too, that it's there and for the archives of you commenting on it or whatever.
If you go to emptywords.org, and I don't think that webpage functions very much anymore, but it still exists. And you go to the tours section, and then you go further into the Sound of Perseverance tour, and then you scroll down a little bit. There's like a ticket stub picture, and then there's a picture of Chuck in his jeans and no T-shirt.
Yep.
And then there's a little paragraph that I submitted because they were asking for testimonials and concert experiences with Chuck, and they actually took mine and they put it on the webpage.
Yep, it's right here. It's
And-
right underneath the picture with Chuck. So.
Yep, and it basically goes through the story that we just told.
Yep.
And I gave you my experience yakking on the stage and Chuck checking in on me, and and at the time too, like when I submitted this or whatever, I'd kind of moved on from death metal and in a way,
Right.
Because years of listening to OG death metal, and you're kind of like, well, I like more than that. Some people don't. Some people stay with the Deicide and the Cannibal Corpse, and they don't really need to expand, and that's fine.
Yeah,
no
that's
judgment. But for me, I was like, I'm kind of moving into more. And I grew like Chuck grew. Like he went to Control Denied, so we're moving into the clean vocals, and everything's more melody. It's still heavy, still hard. I still like metal. I still like guitar-driven music, but I was moving into like, can we be more songwriter? Can we be more melodic with it? So, and having a resurgence of the OG death metal now is fun.
Yeah.
Because now you can listen and you can decide, like, does it compare? And I tripped over one last night. I sent you the link.
I seen those links. I'll jam them this week. I did listen to the Awakeness, but let's just for time's sake, because we are starting to run out of time.
Yeah.
Fire through some honorable mentions. I got a few I'd like to just say, just some concerts that I've seen that were memorable. But why don't you just give me some honorable mentions? Let's try not to spend too much time.
No, I won't.
We got these guys coming here shortly, and I want to use the bathroom and get some setup time.
Yeah, sure. I figured we got 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be quick about this. I just saw Sleep Token a year ago at Sonic Temple on the Teeth of God tour. Again, spectacle, right?
Yeah.
Costumes, lasers, crowd engagement. Everybody's singing the words. Sleep Token, big band. A big part of this too is my wife was with me, and I love to have shared experience with somebody who you love, and she loves Sleep Token. I gave her ample opportunity to bail on this intense crowd, and she's like, "No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I got to be as close as I can." And at some point, they stopped the show several times because people are passing out, falling over, crowd surfing, getting hurt. We managed to get quite close, not as close as maybe I would have liked to, but a better position to where you could actually see Vessel better instead of like standing on the tiptoes.
Yeah. Over everybody else.
And doing this between heads and shoulders. So that was a great one. I got to see Meshuggah on the Immutable tour with In Flames and Whitechapel, and that was at GLC 20 in a row.
Yeah.
Also with my
Last year,
wife.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was actually December 3rd, 2023, the 12th anniversary of me meeting my wife to the day.
Oh, wow.
So we went down to the floor for ligature marks. She hated it. Bailed. I don't like it. Let's get me out of here. So sorry, babe. I just had to be as close to the Kings as possible. We bailed. So like my third time seeing Meshuggah, I think, in my life. In Flames, good show. Slipknot. So I'll pass it over to you in a sec with this. I know that we saw them at the Orbit Room.
Yes.
I believe it was the World Domination Tour, and it was Kitty and Willhaven.
Yep.
And Slipknot.
Yep.
I remember that. Correct me if I'm wrong. We also saw them at the Orbit Room another time. Yes or no? Because I know they did play the Orbit Room prior to that. I think it was 1999 with it. Now records show with Machine Head, Amen, and Coal Chamber.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Did we go
Yes.
and maybe missed, like bailed on Coal Chamber? I don't remember seeing Coal Chamber at the Orbit Room, bro. I remember seeing them another time.
I've seen Slipknot 3 different times.
Same, but I cannot recall the second Orbit Room experience. But the one I remember, I know Luke was there. Roland, you and I, we all either met up or went together or something like that. I just remember seeing them. Maybe that was the first time but I don't know. Dates would have been kind of backwards. We would have seen them before with Coal Chamber because they were the headliner on that tour. I don't have any recollection of that at all. But,
yeah, we maybe bailed during that then or something too, because I know I've seen them 3 different
Yep.
times. So
and then I saw them at the Deltaplex. I saw them 3 times on that first album, and I never saw them again after that. But I can keep going. I have a couple more. I was
shoot them out real
Yeah,
quick.
I
I got
was
a
gonna give
couple I'll shoot out real quick.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
I got to see Strapping Young Lad on the
Ooh,
Art of
fuck yeah.
the Art of Noise tour with Dark Tranquillity, Nile, The Berserker, and Napalm Death.
Oh fuck yeah.
February 5th, 2003 at the intersection that we know and love today.
Yeah.
But this is like brand new 2000. They weren't operating much prior to this. This is like early days of the intersection, 22 years ago now. I actually met Devin Townsend, got to shake his hand, have a small interaction with him. He'd field some questions. I remember asking him, so nothing from the Devin Townsend band, no Terry, no Ocean Machine. He's like, no, not tonight. But soon we're coming back around with the Devin Townsend band. But I just thought it was cool that he was milling through the crowd, ski cap, glasses, green coat.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't think he could do that these days.
Right.
Like he's made enough of a name for himself now to where like he can't just mill about
Right.
through the crowd. We saw them. We saw him with BT Bam.
Yeah, we seen it. Yep.
Like I don't think he was milling about that night. No, he
No.
wasn't rolling through the crowd with his bald ass head. We got Shadows Fall at the old intersection.
Oh yeah.
Now Milligan's Pub. That night
Yep.
they were with Factory 81, Drowning Man, and Glassjaw.
Yep.
So
I remember
October
that show.
October
there,
8th,
too.
2000. I don't know if I went solo. I remember being given a tape from that had 2 songs from Of One Blood. And
Okay.
I played the absolute dog shit out of this tape.
Yeah.
2 songs, flip it, same 2 songs.
Two
let's,
songs. Flip
let's
it again.
go.
Yep.
And that was such a banger. Like Of One Blood is a great album,
Yeah.
but those 2 songs especially, I was like all day. I didn't need to listen to shit else. I just
Yeah.
listened to those 2 songs. So when Shadows Fall came out, I thought they were gonna be what Killswitch Engage is now. That big of a
Oh,
band. I thought they
yeah.
were gonna be the metalcore band.
I don't think the diversity in vocals was enough there, but that's a different episode.
Yeah. Then I saw Mastodon with BT Bam at the Orbit Room. Bill Kelleher was sick, so they had to stand in for Mastodon from the Baroness.
Okay, that's what we were talking about at Ross's place, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a great show. Got to see BT Bam, I think maybe during the Alaska, but it says it was the Volcom tour, so April 29, 2010. I can't remember. Maybe they were on Colors by then. I think so, yeah. And then lastly, I got to see Megadeth on the Super Collider tour with Fear Factory at Nonpoint. I just thought that was a great bill.
Yeah, that
Also-
is a cool bill.
Also at the Orbit Room, loved Nonpoint. Fear Factory was cool. I remember there were some younger cats there to see Megadeth. But Fear Factory was on. I'm an OG Fear Factory fan. I want to see them. They're dogging them. They're like just straight mocking them. And I'm like, dude, like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I'm actually having like this almost this altercation with this dude. And I'm just like, I get it. You're here to see Megadeth. Guess what? Me too. But it was like, it could have been one of those things where like, hey, you don't like this band? Tell you what, I've already seen Megadeth several times. Why don't I just step up in front, sing the songs I know with Burton C. Bell, and then when Megadeth comes on, I'll give you the spot back.
Right.
It ain't that deep, fam.
Yeah.
But instead, they're just dogging them and just harassing the shit out of them. I thought it was bunk. But Megadeth, great set. They had Chris Broderick in the band that night.
Oh, okay.
And just super awesome. And then lastly, the Cryptic Writings Tour. We got to see him at Kalamazoo State Theater.
Yeah, that was a cool.
And the reason that one stands out to me is because we had the OG, or not the OG, the classic Megadeth lineup with Marty Friedman.
Marty was there. Yep.
Nick Menza. I remember making the eye contact with Marty. He looked at me and pointed me out, like,
Yeah.
dude, you dude. He's like, yeah, man. Yeah, dude. So, like, that was pretty cool. And we had Cold Chamber on that night and also Life of Agony, but with Whitfield Crane.
Yes.
Formerly of Ugly Kid Joe as the vocalist. And I thought he did.
That was a cool. That I remember that. They were fucking good, dude.
That was weird for me because it's like that I hate everything about you guy or whatever. And I knew him from Ugly Kid Joe, and I'm like, this motherfucker can scream like a banshee.
Yeah.
So I didn't know he had them pipes. But Kalamazoo State Theater, awesome venue for any show, anything, any activity going on. If they're still doing and they still do things. If you have any reason to go to that venue, I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
like, we saw that Snowcore tour there.
Yep.
Awesome.
Really cool.
So,
cool venue.
What do you got for some honorable mentions, Jay, in your pocket?
I'll blast through these real quick.
Yeah.
Tattoo the Earth. So,
yeah, I missed that.
Fucking Slayer, Slipknot, Sepultura. That was with Derek Green.
Okay, Mudvayne.
Mudvayne.
Yep.
Seven Dust. Nothing Face played.
Yep. Rip
so
Matt Holt.
Yep. So I got to see Nothing Face 2 different times. So, and then there's a bunch of other. There was a whole bunch of the like
randoms.
Power Man 5000, Spine Shank, all those kind of bands were on that second stage or whatever. But just that main stage, just that kind of lineup, Mudvayne, Slayer, Sepultura, Slipknot. I mean, come on, dude, what the hell?
And what's funny about
Head PE, they fucking killed that day too. I remember that. They were great, dude. Like they're one of the rap bands, like their older stuff. I really fuck with Head PE.
It's funny, like you hear that bill now, and you're like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Gotta go see it. Those bands weren't as popular then.
They were just coming up. Basically.
Yeah, like you had to like find out about them then. You could say those names now, and you're like, oh my god, they're all awesome. But you're like, well, they weren't all necessarily awesome in the moment. Like they were great. And they were coming up, but people didn't know them like they do now. So, yeah, you hear a bill like that, and you're like, oh, my God, you got to see all of that in one day? That's now you're not going to get all that in one day.
Unless it was like an Ozfest thing or whatever.
Right.
But that was just a banger. Like I said, I got to see Nothing Face another time at the old intersection.
Mulligan's Pub.
Yeah, so that was super cool just to be able to see Nothing Face and in their element. That was right after Violence, too, so they're top tier shit.
That place was grimy.
Dillinger Escape Plan with a Faceless. That was a banger. My God, like I talk about the Walls of Jericho energy, I'd never seen no shit like the Dillinger Escape Plan thing.
Right.
You just didn't have the crowd getting into it like the Walls of Jericho singing along type thing. But Dillinger Escape Plan, they're doing backflips and all kinds of shit, playing their stuff perfectly. The strobe lights are going. You're just like, your face is just melting off. You're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Nice.
You know, I got to see Behemoth. That was a badass show. Went to Chicago to see them. The two opening bands were really terrible, but just to be able to see the spectacle that is Behemoth, always been a big fan.
Yeah.
Not so much their newer stuff, but like I seen them right in a great spot of their career. I don't have the dates wrote down. I just have a few things here. And one more that I want to speak on because I've seen a bunch of shit. Belphegor, Suffocation. I mean, so many shows. It's just hard to really pick, you know. But the Gojira show that I bought, like, kind of owed you tickets for the Kill Switch, and you didn't get to go because you were like starting third shift or whatever. And Shauna went with me, and that was kind of one of those experiences where you're talking about the wife's with you.
Yeah.
Shauna doesn't like metal,
right?
But man, she was like, wow, Gojira was good, and like just to hear somebody that doesn't even like metal to know how good Gojira actually is, and she really liked. What was the fucking band that opened? They have the guitars, Code Orange.
Okay.
And that time, Code Orange was a lot less, like, now they have all this electronics and this weird stuff going on. At that time, they were more like that hardcore Machine Head, like, really just in-your-face type metal. But Gojira, what a hell of a show, how tight they are. And Jesus, man. Like, I know we could go on and on because we have so many of them, but
I will say,
they are
I'm
tip-top sweet.
I'm surprised I forgot about this, and this is another testament of, like, not having the tickets. I did get to see Gojira in 2008 after they released The Way of All Flesh.
Yeah.
I immediately bought tickets as soon as they were released. I got online, and so this is like I'm buying shit online. Well, if you were one of the first 100 or so people, you were eligible to win passes to a meet and greet. And I actually won the meet and greet passes. So my girlfriend and I at the time go down to Chicago, and we get there early, and then they bring us to meet Gojira. And so I got to talk with Joe and Mario and Michelle and, oh man, what is the other guy's name? I forget. Sean, maybe. No, I don't remember the other guitarist's name. Forgive me. But yeah, I got to meet the guys, rap with them. Just 5-10 minutes of their time. Photograph exists, you know. And again, it just totally slipped my mind because I don't have a ticket stub.
Right.
And I just was like, I'm trying to go through my mind and remember. But yeah, that was one of the loudest fucking concerts of my life. It was kind of like, if you will, like a Fraternity of Eagles type venue.
Yeah.
Where you had to walk up the stairwell, rickety stairs. You get up to the top, and the setup was kind of strange and whatever. But I just remember my ears hurt so bad. I was like holding my ears, and then some guy gave me some earplugs, like the red buds on the blue wire, and I put those in. It made it worse because they hurt. They were so bad. I was like, I'll just suffer. But so that was the one show I suffered through watching Gojira. But that was the loudest show I've ever seen.
All right, we got to wrap this up, but I do want to say real quick, I did get to see Protest the Hero, and that was fucking badass. They were so good, dude. They played with, like, Battlecross. Oh, dude, they were so sweet. And then, like, the same that you feel about Tool, anytime I've ever seen Between the Bear and Me.
Yeah.
So on point, tip-top musicians, never a fucking mistake to be heard. And I've seen them at least 5 times, and I'm about to go see them here a 6th. So, man, you can't, if you want just musicianship and just tip-top progressive metal, like CBT Bam, they do not disappoint. They are masters of their craft. So with that being said, anything else, man? We got to wrap this up.
No, just for anybody watching, comment and let us know your favorite concert experiences, and like let us know what we should be looking out for that's coming up. Like, hey, if you haven't seen said band, go check them out because I'm down for that stuff.
I agree. All right, y'all. Peace. Keep it metal.
Yep.
Thank you so much for checking out the episode. Be sure to hit that like button and give us a share.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed our podcast today, please give it a rating on your streaming service to help us gain some exposure.
And if you really enjoyed the show, please give us a follow or hit that subscribe button and come hang out with us every week. And remember, keep it metal.